Join Samantha and Hans at the next Macro to Micro Options Power Hour, held each Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is free. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the description.
In my view, it's almost kind of this a known unknown. So I don't think everybody's on board like I am, or like, some of the Gerstners and people like that. I mean, I'm buying into that this is really, really big. And when things get that big, fundamentals don't matter as much. I remember the late 90s. I remember periods of craziness. And if you hear people saying, oh, the market's expensive, it doesn't really matter if you kind of have this potentially massive tailwind of thinking that, listen, this is going to improve profit margins via productivity, via AI changing things. Forget about the jobs it's going to cost. At some point, that's a problem. But in the meantime, this is going to create something interesting. And so I'd love to have your view on something like this, Samantha, which is, this is from our friend Torsten Slock. I apologize for the resolution here, but basically it's the forward swap, right? It basically bets on where rates are going, which is going down, versus cyclicals versus defensive. So this is the relationship that we were just talking about. Cyclical is doing very well, meaning, okay, the economy is expanding. So this isn't saying anything about the economy slowing down. Is it right? Is it wrong? We're not going to know for a while. But at the same time, why is this disconnect happening? Because they should they're a little bit in conflict with each other, right? Because either the economy is taking off, and that's going to mean that inflation stays healthy and that rates can't come down too much, or the other way around. So one of these, he's sort of saying, well, one of these is wrong. And I'm postulating that maybe both can be correct, because if we are going into one of these sort of unprecedented periods of, we don't know who's necessarily going to win. Somebody the other day said, I don't know if it was Vinod or one of these other guys, saying, listen, we're going to see S&P disruption to S&P companies like we've never seen. Companies like in big trouble, big companies with big moats that turn into drops of water, into puddles. So it remains to be seen how everyone's going to get overly dramatic. They're going to get overly crazy about this stuff, and they're going to postulate all kinds of things. But I think we can agree that this is going to create positives for people who figure out how to use this stuff, and that is going to translate into profit margins. That's part of the reason I'm really loading up on Goldman. I've had some great trades lately, and I'm continuing to add, because I think that's the kind of business where the smartest guys and gals in the room are going to figure this out. They're going to do things for less money. They're going to cut costs. The deals are coming, the IPO deals, et cetera. As long as the economy doesn't implode, I think that's an area where a great example of how this is going to change an industry. It's going to change companies who get on board. So can we have super high growth, maybe to what you were talking about a moment ago, Samantha, which is 3% growth and just consistent growth, a roaring 20s, everything great. But guess what? It comes with low inflation because AI is deflationary. So this is just a everybody wins kind of world. And wouldn't that be nice? We lost you, Samantha.
Okay, sorry. I was laughing. I didn't want to interrupt your flow.
You didn't want to laugh in my face like that. Okay.
I'm dying over here. You have got the consensus view that rates are going to careen lower. I do not. I'm not consensus. And actually, we talked about this last time, why I'm firmly in the camp that rates will not careen lower. Number one, I believe the dollar will, but that's all part of the de-dollarization. That's a feature, not a bug of Trump policies. You're talking about the AI, not even a renaissance, right? This earth-shattering advancement, it also has a dark side, from tyranny to joblessness. So we have to balance all of that, and we don't know. So I'm not going to go and project on something I can't see. I can't see that. Now, as it relates to this expectation division, I should say divergence between what the market is pricing in and Fed, forget the Fed. Just try for a minute and just imagine that we don't have actually the ability to price assets. We don't. There's no ability to price assets naturally. There's too much policy intervention. With that, Treasury intervention, the White House, Fed, there's way, way, way too much incentive to run the economy hot. That's why the OBBB passed, right? It is all gas, no brakes. And now what you're talking about is a situation where we now have all growth, no inflation. Color me skeptical. So I know the bulls are going, full bore. And this is why I can see technically, I can see from the intermarket, I can put together the bullish argument. Not that I'm not macro bearish for all kinds of really good reasons, but, and by the way, that's exactly what I did with my write-up of, and I do this for clients, and I don't know if you're a client or not, but when you're talking about how do you support your bullish talking points, I write about them. So, here's Trump tariffs and basically just rolling these constantly, later, bullish flows, mechanical, technical levers, in particular, breadth, which I talk about a lot. I'll show you a chart in particular that Ed from Ned Davis posted. I use this all the time with clients, but the point is we're not even there yet. We're not even into a bullish impulse with this chart. We've only made it up into the bullish impulse. Credit spreads falling, very supportive for a bullish market. Dollar de-dollarization is the reason for the season, in my humble opinion, along with the fiscal spending. Yield curve is right now steepening. Got to be careful about that. This is not something that folks are looking at, and it will upset the apple cart. This is the 10 and 2-year yield curve. I have been on this very, very effectively. I really like rates because I know that they can create, a Goldilocks zone for equities, which we're in right now, and they can also create massive, massive headwinds when it leaves that Goldilocks zone too high or too low, too hot or too cold. Anyway, I talk about stable earnings, quote unquote, but I will also remind that the majority of earnings growth is coming from the AI ecosystem winners, and the rest are losers. And it's not okay. I talk about employment and what the levers are for when it starts to pull recession risk forward. Here's an example of the mechanical flows that I posted in LaDucTrading Slack channel for members. Here's an example of the bullish percent index when we got down into the 16 lever, which was the April 7th low before the April 9th policy intervention by Trump to delay the tariffs for 90 days. And then he just did it again this weekend. So again, why sell off if he's going to continue to be Taco Man? But the 65 lever, and I say lever specifically because we can hit this and get rejected. We can go back and kind of backfill, do a little mean reversion in the SPY, and everyone's going to get all freaked out. But the reality is we get and stay above that 65% of S&P stocks above their 200-day. It's very bullish. We do have some headwinds as well, and I talk about the macro event risks. We've got a dollar that right now is on channel support. Big picture, I still see it moving lower, and that de-dollarization theme makes objects like assets, like equities, appear larger than they really are. We have grift as far as the eye can see, and it makes me just enormously uncomfortable. But the fact of the matter is we are in the age of grift. And in lieu of the dollar crashing, they create these off-ramps for both inflation and dollar collapse. So people invest in ARK, they invest in crap, whatever it may be. These stable coins are another way to delay the fall of the dollar, or I should say the speed of the dollar. The dollar is going to fall, but the rate of change matters. So they've got all these mechanisms. Oh, what was the other one just recently? I also posted, right? This kind of stuff. What is the Trump family organization doing? Filing ETF to launch crypto blue chip ETF. This is all part of the This is all part of the grift. It's the Melania coin. It's the Trump coin. It's all, people are still going to invest in this because it's easy money and conditions are very easy. And Trump, honestly, browbeating Powell to cut when there's no reason to. Trump is also saying we got the best economy ever. We're growing 3%. We don't need to cut. But I know the consensus is, oh yeah, we need to cut. No, really. Powell's going to get replaced with someone dovish, whether it's Bowman, whether it's Kevin Hasnett. I don't think it's Kevin Warsh. It's got to be a loyalist. That's all he does. He only employs loyalists. So it's likely going to be Hasnet. So basically, it's only going to goose the economy more. That's another melt-up thesis. So I don't think it is an easy question of saying, why are equities higher than Fed expectations? No, that's a useless measure. Why do they keep intervening with policy to keep the market goosed? Why do they keep conditions very, very loose? Why do they encourage grift and financialization? There's no wonder that equities are rising.
Join Samantha and Hans at the next Macro to Micro Options Power Hour, held each Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is free. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the description. Watch the full Options Macro to Micro Power Hour episode by clicking on the video here and subscribe to LaDucTrading YouTube channel for more content.